Hi guys, thank you all very much for coming tonight to the final hustling session of this term and of the year. So tonight we have the senior man candidate Henry Winlow, who is running. The question that Simon has sent. Unfortunately, Simon can't be with us tonight as he's had to rush home due to a family bereavement. So do think of him as we continue this hustling tonight. So the question for Henry is as follows. The main functions of the role of senior man are to represent the views of the JCR. The main functions of the role of the senior man are to represent the views of the JCR to college office, represent the views of the college to the university, and to offer leadership to the JCR Executive Committee. How would you prioritise these functions and why?
Just first of all, thank you very much for the past week for everyone that's let me come and canvass them. I'm very sorry for interrupting those of you that are in big games of Dungeons and Dragons. And apologies to those of you that I missed. Going back to the question, all three elements of the role are really important. However, I feel particular priority needs to be given, especially at the moment, to representing the views of the college in the wider university setting. I put a lot of time into thinking how to get that balance between having a working relationship with policymakers, but also challenging them and how and when the right way of doing that is. And there's three things I'd really like to do to make my position as strong as possible if I get elected. Firstly, I'd really like to work with Simon as closely as possible throughout the handover period so I could be updated on the different arguments, on the policies in the pipeline, so we can build on the momentum that we've started in terms of opposition this year, rather than going back to square one, which has happened in the past. Secondly, I think it's a sad fact, but we have to recognise the fact that the university doesn't necessarily listen to us as an individual college. We make up 7.5% of the undergraduate population, which is an important percentage, but in their eyes isn't significant enough. So I think it's important, so we don't get left out of conversations that are going on, that when we put forward opposition, we do this through bodies like the President's Committee, like the Students' Union, to get unified student responses to university-wide issues. Thirdly, I had a fantastic idea suggested to me this week from David Knowles, and it's something I've started to work on the draft of, creating a document that really outlines what we believe makes a college life in Durham unique, so that when the university proposes something that goes against our views, we can turn around and point to exactly the area that they're challenging and why it goes against our views. In terms of the other two areas of the role, I think these are more on a par. With College Office, I think the vital element there is to build a strong working relationship with the Master. He's a fantastic asset to the college, and Simon's done a really good job working with him this year, and it's something I want to carry on, so that we have support when we're looking at things about continuing to expand the gym, setting up a second laundry position, and solving issues with the lack of accommodation in college. And then in terms of leading the exec, I see it more as steering the exec, working with groups of them when there's issues that don't necessarily fit into someone's individual role, so stuff like alcohol policy, bringing the exec together to discuss that, but also being there to support the individuals when they have problems that they can't necessarily handle themselves. So when we're looking at stuff like the number of JCR tables at Duke Hall, supporting the social chair, being there to help form the arguments to these issues. So yeah, in summary, while all three are really important, I do think that precedence has to be given to representing our views within the wider university. Thank you.
Now opening to questions from the floor. Yes, George Griggs.
How do you see the relationship with senior union rep and senior man working with issues at university level, and how do you think this issue was dealt with the rising costs of Team Durham imposed on sports teams this year?
Did everyone hear that? You need to keep your period.
Oh, sorry, okay. So oh God, again. I said, well, how do you see the relationship of senior man working with the senior union rep under USO, and how do you think this relationship works with the Team Durham issue of the costs going up for sports teams?
Thank you.
Working with the union more is something that I've put a lot of thought into, and especially doing this through our senior union rep. at the moment, I know lots of people view it as an irrelevant, inefficient body. But the fact is that on the rare occasions when the university turns to people for student representation, they tend to do that through the union. And I think it's important that we don't just ignore them, because then they have no idea what we have to say. So something I'd really like to work with the union rep on doing is getting union officers to come here more, getting the president, the activities officers to come and talk about the big issues at our JCR meetings, and to hold informal sessions here in the Undie at meals, so they really have got a chance to hear what we've got to say. And I think that's an area that is really, really important to work with the union rep on doing. In terms of the rising cost of in Team Durham fees, it isn't something I personally know a lot about, and I would like to find out more about it if I get a chance. But I do think that, again, it's important that we recognise the need for us to go and explain these issues through the union, and not just try and challenge it always as an individual college. And things that they hold these regular meetings for sounding boards, like zone meetings, that most of us, I know, just delete the email because it comes through from the union. And I'd really like to work again with the union officer, encouraging people to participate in these things, going and voicing the opinions of our college. Because even if we had 3 people, say, going to each of these meetings, we would be the most represented college there, which would make our view, I hope, that bit stronger. They're not big meetings, but they do talk about big issues. And they have, I know, discussed the sports fees last term, and I'm not sure who went to that one. So it's something I really want to promote more within the college.
Thank you very much. Any more questions, please? St. Jim.
What are we to make of the fact that you're unopposed?
Okay, that question is, what are we to make of the fact that you are unopposed?
I know this is an issue that lots of people have talked to me about. Firstly, I could apologise that I'm unopposed, but I'm not sure there's much I could do about it now. However, I have thought a lot about how to get more people engaged in elections and participating in how we run the college. Speaking to a lot of freshers, it's clear that lots of people don't necessarily know how we run things. And I think to get more people engaged in running for positions like the senior man, it's about getting people involved at an early stage. So one thing I'd really like to do is create just like an A4 layman's guide to how the college works, how you get involved in different roles, put that in the freshers guide, put it online. I know not everyone's going to read it, but hopefully the people that are interested will. Another thing I do think we need to look at, and I think for some reason has played a bigger part this year, is the room ballot. And I would really like to try and follow up on a suggestion I had at the first JCR meeting, and was discussed by one of the vice senior man candidates as well, of moving that ballot earlier on within the first term, without necessarily the allocations of rooms, so people have more time to think about the fact, waiting to get a room and running for an exec position, or rushing into getting a house, because that is something that I know played a massive part in lots of people's positions this year. But we do need to, I think it is fair to point out that I'm not unopposed. I am running against reopen nominations, and I've said to nearly everyone that I've canvassed, if you think I'm the wrong person for the job, please actively vote reopen nominations. I think in principle it's not necessarily, if you are just voting because there's no one else here, I would urge you to think about whether that is the right decision. I'm dedicated to do the role, and I will run again if reopen nominations is opened up. But I would, and that's everything.
Thank you very much. Any more questions, please? Yes, Sophia.
So, each senior man leaves a bit of a legacy in college. What legacy would you like to leave?
So that's each senior man leaves a bit of a legacy in college. What kind of legacy would you like to leave?
As I briefly touched on in the last question, something I'm really eager to do is get more members of the JCR involved in the decision-making process. The exec this year, I think, have been fantastic at getting stuff done, but haven't necessarily given everyone opportunities, those that want opportunities, to come and contribute their own ideas and propose alternative solutions to issues that are discussed in JCR meetings. So that's an area I really want to try and look to improve. There's 3 ways I kind of want to improve accessibility in that regard. Firstly, setting up these open exec meetings that I've mentioned on my manifesto, setting up those twice a term, about a week and a half before JCR meetings, so those people that are really proactive and want to be involved in how we run things, or have a really strong opinion and don't necessarily have the confidence to stand up in a larger JCR meeting, can come and be involved in those discussions. And secondly, I want to adapt the open door policy that the exec have at the moment, something I've spoken to quite a lot of people about again. I want to change that almost to being an office hour system, because I know I wouldn't check up to Normal Gallery unless I knew someone was in their room. And talking from personal experience this week, knocking on someone's door with no idea what they're doing can be quite awkward. So I think if we change that to being 2 hours a week, when people know they're in the rooms, hopefully we'll give more people confidence to get involved and to contribute those ideas.
Thank you. Yes.
Senior man is de facto in charge of the exec. Do you think that the current exec structure is the most efficient way to lead the college in the next year?
Okay, so this is senior man is de facto leader of the exec. Do you think the current exec structure is the best way to lead the college in the next year?
This is something that I have had a few conversations with different people in the college, in particular in the exec, about. At the moment, I feel there is space to potentially streamline the exec in some regards. However, I haven't put enough thought into and haven't come up with a perfect solution to doing that yet. I feel there are some roles that do really important things for the college, are not necessarily recognised in our exec, and there are roles in the exec that don't necessarily do as much and could be kind of, I think we need to review slightly. However, I feel as a team it works really well, and the setup we have for closed exec meetings, coming to JCR meetings, and the roles that people like the Vice Senior Man have for holding people to account, make sure that we are still running a reasonably efficient body, but there's always space to improve, and that's something I'd really like to open up to discussion within the JCR and with my fellow exec members if I get elected.
Thank you. Any more questions? Ed Gibbs.
Building on that last point, please could you rank the current exec positions in order of importance?
Building on that last point, please rank all the exec members in order of importance.
Positions.
Positions, sorry, yeah. Positions. Change things.
I think they're all really important. I will rank them. They are really important. They each handle very different areas. But I'd like to think the senior man was near the top, if not at the top, because it has that role of being de facto leader. Secondly, potentially the treasurer, because they're in charge of our accounts, and that's such an important element. They're running a kind of six-figure account every year, and that's quite an important role, I think. Next, maybe I'm having lots of waves from the bar chair at the back, which is coming. I think next, maybe the union rep and the union society's rep, because I think the union isn't a thing. Also, because she's eyeing me up, trying to say to following that, I think Vice Senior Man again, very important, but the rest I think are all on very much similar level of importance in running how things work. Oh, that's a good one.
Good. Not sharp.
Which positions do you think are inefficient and need to be improved?
Again, another follow-up question. Which positions do you believe are inefficient and maybe need streamlining?
I don't think it's necessarily a question of inefficiency of the individual roles, but I think it's more a factor of the size of the exec, and I don't want to get rid of any of these roles, but whether their exact placing on the exec needs to necessarily be in place. So potentially, I think it's something that needs to be discussed a lot. There are two positions I have thought about personally, and this is only my view, and it would be something I want to open up to the rest of the JCR. I think it's really important to have two people running the bar, but whether the vice bar chair needs to be on there the whole time, because they have a big responsibility in terms of the bar, but whether they need to be involved in all those discussions that the exec are having, as long as there's at least one form of representation there. Secondly, I think sponsorship this year has been fantastic. I would want to keep a role as head of sponsorship within the college, but again, I'm not sure whether they need to be involved in every decision that's made within the executive committee. But as I said, this is really something I'd want to open up to discussion and not just, I obviously wouldn't just decide this myself or get the exec to decide this alone. This would be something that I'd really want everyone in the JCR to contribute to and to hear their views on.
Thank you. Yes, Paul.
Building on this common theme that's emerging, what are you going to do to support and encourage non-executive officers, because they're often quite forgotten about in my kind of experience? They're an important part of the support network of the college JCR. What are you going to do to support them? Because under decision. Sounds like some people think
Okay. So this is from Paul Chambers, our tech director. He says, what would you do to help? What would you do to help support the non-executive officers who want to do a lot around college and maybe should be consulted more?
There are a lot of people, and that makes such a big difference to how this college is run. So many people, even people that are just members of committees, people who are really important officers like the tech director. I think it's important, first of all, that, as I mentioned earlier, that everyone knows what these roles do and how important they are, because having gone around, lots of people don't necessarily know what some of these people are doing and how big a part they play in so much of our lives. I do think it's reviewing whether, as well at JCR meetings, when the execs speak about what they've been doing, getting more of these officers to tell the JCR what they're doing as well. Along from that, I think it's important that we do that as an exec. We recognise the fact that lots of people have views and want to contribute to what we do, and turning to these officers again would be a really good way to get their views on issues that are relevant to them.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Perhaps from the middle? Or anyone else, really? Any more questions? Yes, Ed Gibbs.
You mentioned a lot tonight about how you wouldn't necessarily make a decision yourself, but you'd open that up to the JCR. Where do you draw the line in being a leader and making a decision yourself and opening it up to other people?
I think, first of all, making the decision to open things up is one of the biggest challenges. There are going to be times when closing exec meetings and working and making your own decisions are really important, and partly it's really hard to make a judgment now, having not had any experience directly with the role. I think there are going to be times when you're in meetings with people like the Vice Chancellor, when you're in meetings with college officers as well, that I would really hope that people would have the reliance on me to be able to make a decision that would represent their views, and that's partly why I want to open more discussions up to the JCR. If I got elected, I would have a chance to hear what more people had to say and take that into my own individual decision-making process. It's not necessarily asking each individual what they think of each decision, but more kind of getting a broader range of their views. It is very much a judgment call. I don't think I can sit here now and go, if this happens, I'll do it myself, and if this happens, I'll ask everyone. But I really hope that people would feel I had that judgment ability to be able to do that when the time came.
Thank you very much. Yes, Shukai, please.
Sorry, from Emily Parent. What do you think the relationship between the JCR and MCR is like, and what's your opinion on that?
So, this is the question. What do you think that the relationship between JCR and the MCR is like, and what's your opinion on that as it progresses?
It's actually something I have mentioned in my manifesto, and I am really passionate about improving. I feel steps have been taken this year, but there is still a lot of animosity around certain areas, particularly looking at things like June Ball. Something I'd really like to set up to try and work on this would be to have regular meetings between the JCR and the MCR execs. We are two separate bodies, and I want to maintain that autonomy we have as a JCR. But we do now live in the same community, and the MCR is growing. So more and more of us are affected by the same issues, and I think it's ridiculous not to consult them when we're trying to find solutions to overcrowding at dinner, where we're going to put a second laundry location, rather than coming up with proposing ideas, working together. Secondly, I think, again, I know I've mentioned societies obviously quite a lot, and that's not just because George is sat right in front of me, but I think it's important to remind the MCR that they are able to be involved in our societies, to be in our sports teams. Firstly, I know there's lots of people that are interested in it and don't necessarily know they can. And also, I think it would make our own teams stronger and more viable. And I think, it's not more viable is the wrong word there, just stronger, I'll leave it at that. And I think if we can get that integration at almost a grassroots level, hopefully that will build the relationship throughout the JCR and MCR.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any more questions, please? Steve.
The members of the exec on sort of importance, can you rank them out of 10 as well, please?
Is that current or incoming?
Sorry.
Could you rank the current members of exec out of 10?
I was contemplating whether we were going for the get out clause or going. I had to give them all 10, but I think there'd be a lot of groaning from the audience. I'm going to base this not on how good they've been at the job, because I think they've all been quite good, but more on just how well I know them and what they're like as people. Which may have been the wrong idea. So Simon, I think, has been fantastic. He's really funny. Occasionally gets too drunk, but other than that, I'd give him a solid 9. Ed, like a 7. He's always quite friendly. I try to work my way down Norman Gallery, working out where each person is. George, fantastic at sports and union union representation. Potentially some improvement with a love life. Couldn't. That's a joke again. So like another 7.5. 7.5. Matt and Sam are put together. Lots of fun. Organise the bar really well. Great chat all the time. So an 8 there for like the two of them combined. But like, no, that's like an average working together. Becca, always really efficient. She actually turns the checks around really fast when I have something to claim back, so I'm going to give her a 10 in the hope that she continues to do that. Welfare are always really friendly. However, I would like to have more tea and toast, especially as a liberal who can't afford that much food. So I'm gonna go for like a 6 again combined with room for improvement because everyone can always improve. And Daisy can have a 9. Oh, and H. I really like events and I'm going on a social later with the Ents team, so 8 again. And Christabel once ran after me to make me pay for a formal because I forgot to put the money in, and it was a 5er, so I'm going to give her a 3. I think that's everyone. Apologies if I missed anyone.
Okay, any more questions, please? Yes.
The incoming exec is currently quite girl-dominated. Could you maybe give me your favourite song by a female artist?
And sing.
And sing it, obviously.
And dance.
So the incoming exec is very heavily female-dominated. Could you show your feminine side by demonstrating your favourite song by a female artist? You can dance as well if you like.
It's actually a good job because I did think someone might ask me a song, and the song I prepared is by a female. And that song is Taylor Swift's We Are Never Getting Back Together. Because I think we're in a time when we need to be empowered as a college, and this is a really empowering song. I apologise for getting the words wrong. I'm going to sit down and dance as well because these trousers are a bit too tight. I remember when we broke up the first time, saying that it wasn't enough, cause like we hadn't seen each other in a month. When you said you needed space, what? Then you say, baby, I miss you and I really wanna stay. Trust me, na 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 na. I say we break it up, we make up, we break up. We are never ever ever getting back together. We are never ever ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me. Cause we are never ever ever getting back together.
Thank you. Well done. Yes, Matt.
Shag, marry, kill, Harry Potter, Hermione and Ron.
Shag, marry, kill, Harry Potter, Hermione and Ron.
I will confess that my view on this has actually changed in the past couple of days. For lots of different reasons. I think I would probably shag Hermione, not just because she's a girl, but also because sometimes she says a bit too much, and it might be a way of keeping her quiet. That was the wrong thing. joking way. Secondly, I would marry Harry because he's really rich. And kill Ron because on his Facebook profile there's a really creepy baby I'm not a big fan of.
Good. Thank you. Any more questions? Last couple of questions.
Yes. Can you list the top 3 skills that you need for senior man, and for each one give an example of how you utilised them in the past?
So that's, can you list the top 3 skills? That's can you list the top 3 skills required to be senior man and demonstrate where you've used them in the past?
I think the top 3 are quite similar, so I'm not going to run them in any particular order. Firstly, organisation. You've got a big responsibility. There's lots of different things going on that you've got to have a kind of oversight of. And probably the most relevant thing is I produce quite a lot of shows, and there you're managing so many different elements, so many different strings that you've got to stay on top of the whole time. And that's something I really enjoy doing, the kind of organisation side of that. Secondly, I think leadership of a team is really vital because, as we've said a couple of times tonight, you are the manager of the exec as a whole. In terms of experience with that, I do get involved in lots of different kind of events, organising again in college, and have personal responsibility for our team, and making sure that each of them have something to do, have tasks, but again, monitoring that I think is really important, and I think that's quite similar to the exec. Everyone's got an individual role, but you're kind of overseeing that. And thirdly, I think you've got to have an element of personal responsibility. You are going to be making decisions that the JCR are first of all relying on you to make, and it's your responsibility to make as good a decision as you can. And I think you've got to be personally responsible for that. That's something I think that element of personal responsibility is something that you kind of reflect hopefully in lots of different things you do. And I really kind of try that whenever I make a decision to take on the results from that, whether they're negative or positive.
Thank you. So one last question, please. Yep.
To what extent do you feel that joke questions in hustings undermine the role and the process of hustings?
To what extent do you think the joke questions in hustings undermine the integrity of the hustings themselves?
It's actually, in terms of, I'm going to talk about actually other elections first. For some of the elections we have in JCR meetings, having spoken to a lot of people, they're really put off from running for things like the funding committee and the standing orders committee because of that element of how we do elections. And I do think it's something we need to review to give people more confidence to be able to stand up and not feeling and be humiliated, because that's not always a skill you need. In terms, though, of these hustings, I think an important part is remembering that we have to keep people engaged with how we run college, and not everyone's going to come and sit here and listen to me talk for half an hour if I'm not going to do something funny and humiliate myself. And so I think it's getting a balance, and I think with the exact elections I think we get that balance right, but I think there are times when we do need to review that process.
Okay, thank you very much. There's been some talk this week about the Ron character. Ron exists in every single election. He has reopened nominations. It's something you all can use and should use if you don't think that the election is currently being contested by the right characters. Previously it has been used by many people to put along their views. I would make sure everyone realises that Ron means reopen nominations. It means that the election process will start from scratch again, meaning that you can start off signing up for a position again, canvassing for the position again, and hustling for the position again. So if you think this is the best thing to do in any election, this is what to do. Thank you very much.